I want to ask our transit director, Julie Kirschbaum, to give you an update on Metro service.
Good afternoon. I'm Julie Kirschbaum. I'm here to really give the first of what's going to be a monthly presentation on tracking both accountability and progress on the subway performance and the transit service more generally. My apologies for the paper version. I did not get the electronic version uploaded. The way we're approaching the subway, as we discussed at the January 15th meeting, is focusing in two paths. The first is to reduce the daily delays, the travel time variability, the congestion. It's caused by things like having too many trains enter the subway at once, having a non-communicating trains. But the customer impact is that they're stuck between stations, or a trip that's supposed to take 15 minutes ends up taking 20 minutes or closer to 25 minutes. And then the second path is to reduce the number of incidents, the actual major breakdowns that we're experiencing in the subway that stop things in both directions. And on there, what we're trying to do is reduce the number of incidents, but also respond better when we have them. So in our reducing of daily delays, we are focusing in several areas. Where I think we've made the most success in the last month, and what I really wanted to call to your attention, is steps we've taken to improve how we manage West Portal. West Portal, as you know, is where the KLM all come in and out, and it's also a source of tremendous pedestrian activity as well as bus and auto activity, all contributing to delays. What we've done over the past several weeks is first of all, we've improved the software so that trains are now getting enough time to actually go through the intersection. We were having a software issue where sometimes we were giving trains 30 seconds and other times we were giving them 15 seconds. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. So the trains were timing out. So that's been fixed. But I think more importantly is we've put PCOs at the intersection, and we've also changed how we're managing the location with inspectors. So the PCOs are helping us manage the pedestrian activity and also some of the auto activity. Sometimes autos are confused by the train signals, and they don't understand what their role is versus the train role. And then by having the PCOs there to manage the pedestrians, it gives the inspectors more confidence in expediting trains because they know that we're going to have safe movement through the intersection. And then the last thing is you see this photo that's on the lower right. What that is it's a local train control panel. And what it allows us to do is, rather than having operators individually call trains, it allows the inspectors to control the movements at the intersection. And what they can do is, rather than having it be first come, first serve, they can make decisions on what we need from a service perspective. So at 5:30 at night, if we have 4 trains trying to get out of the subway, we can expedite them and maybe hold for a minute or two a train trying to get into the subway. So this local control panel is something that we just got up and running. We're just now working through all of the training of our inspectors, but we think it has real potential. And then what that's allowed us to do is, even in just a 2-week period, we've seen a 40% reduction in the delay approaching West Portal, so in the AM and the PM peak. And that's what we're really trying to influence, is how much time people are spending stuck trying to get out of West Portal, kind of between that Forest Hill and West Portal area, that queue. So these movements and all these kind of interrelated actions that we're taking with the PCOs and with the inspectors are helping to get people out of the subway more quickly. Some of the other steps that we're doing, I'm really pleased to report that the hardest phase of the Warriors platform, the Mission Bay platform construction is completed. As you know, we did not have access to our Muni Metro East yard for a little over 2 weeks. That was something that we were very concerned was going to have an impact on rail service. We're turning more trains in the subway. We're not able to maintain trains the way we typically do. And we were storing trains on the surface overnight at both 6th and King and on 3rd Street. Thanks to a lot of really hard work from the field managers and the people that are overseeing this service, we actually got through that very hardest period with very little impact to the customer, which I'm really pleased about. And as we continue through the March period, I'm confident that we're going to continue to be able to provide a really high quality service during the construction. The third area that we're looking at to reduce delays is how we manage our terminals, Embarcadero being the most important one. And there we have increased supervision and also trying to really increase the intensity of that movement so that trains are turning as quickly as they can. I didn't give that a green check because I think that's still a work in progress. We're still trying kind of different approaches to how we communicate both with staff and trying different things, increasing staffing levels, changing staffing levels. So that's something that we're going to continue to progress through this 90 days. And then the last area, which is also something that we have started to do a little bit of, but we'll do more now that we have some of the hardest construction behind us, is to use more gap trains so that when we do have a gap in service, rather than doing a switchback, for example, or letting the gap continue, trying to have trains strategically placed throughout the system so that they can cover the slot. So our first focus is going to be keeping a train at the Cameron Beach Yard that's already pre-opt and ready to go out into the system, and that will help us close service gaps on both the M line and the J line. And then when 3rd Street opens up again, we're also going to look at several locations along 3rd Street. And then kind of an additional location would be in the Mint Yard near Church and DuBose for the N Judah. So that's been our focus on reducing delays. It's been really exciting for me to see all of the different disciplines throughout the agency come together on these problems, because as we talked about, there really is no silver bullet. It takes a lot of small changes. And for example, the work to get the PCOs out there was something that came from Ron Forrest, who's our senior operations manager in the control center, based on what he was seeing in the control center, and it's been really successful. And then what we've been trying to do is then feed back that information to the staff on the ground so that they know what they're doing is working. In terms of reducing the big incidents. What we've been focusing on is the vehicles and the infrastructure. On the vehicles, we have used the MME shutdown to move forward our kind of two most critical campaigns right now. The first is adjusting the couplers, because as we talked about last time, a lot of our issues with doors and steps and propulsion are actually related to how the two cars turn around. So we've now done 46 cars total, and we're working our way as quick as we can through the full fleet. But we used the time of the MME shutdown where we had about 30 trains that were at MME for that 2-week period, and all of those couplers were adjusted. So we're using the time we have as strategically as we can. On the infrastructure side, we have also put in our order to proactively replace the switch motors. Unfortunately, as we've talked about, the switches are old. It's a part that was not being manufactured. We had to actually resurrect the manufacturing of that part. So that's going to be about a 6-month lead time. But the good news is that we've got it in the process and it'll be ready, and it's a proactive campaign. So when the switch motors come here, we'll swap them out. And then the other kind of 2 areas is quickening our response time. So we have shifted staff now. We have signal staff at Church and DuBose and at Embarcadero, and that allows for very strategic coverage of the subway during peak periods. It is a trade-off because it means that there's other parts of the system, particularly like on the outer avenues in the peak period, that they're not as quickly able to access, but we felt that the subway, because it impacts the reliability of all the lines and of so many people, was the right place to put those resources. And then we've also moved a rail maintenance mobile unit to Van Ness, again, as sort of a strategic way to respond quickly to incidents. And then the last area we're working on is the customer information. So improving the quality of our audio announcements, and also getting to the new radios, which will allow us to have preset customer information into the trains. We have really been pushing for the controllers and the operators to make announcements in the trains, but until we're on the new audio, that is sort of hit or miss on how good the sound quality is. So I'm really excited that we hit a major milestone this weekend where we got the digital information up and running in all of the new trains. That's something that we have really been working hard at. And so within the next month or so, we'll see the audio cut over, and that is going to, again, really improve our ability to make good announcements into the trains when we have incidents. Again, the goal being to reduce the number of incidents we have overall, but to communicate more proactively when we're having them. Since the last meeting, we've been working really hard to try to develop what we think are the best metrics to track our progress in the subway. These don't replace the macro targets that we had with the last 90-day plan and that we're continuing to look at for the overall system, but they complement it by taking a really deep dive into the subway. And just in developing these metrics, we've learned a tremendous amount about the service that is helping us shape what are going to be the future interventions. It's been a really good opportunity to kind of take a step back from responding to each emergency and to actually develop new and different ways of looking at the subway than we have in the past. The metric that I'm going to say I'm the most excited about it because it tells us the most, although I think we have a lot of work to get it where it needs to be, is subway delay. We had a real technology wizard, Dan Howard, who went through our ATCS data, and he looked at the travel time of every single train. And what he did was he created categories he broke the subway down into categories. So for every time the train is stopped at a platform for more than 30 seconds, which we would consider kind of the typical what you need to get people on and off, he captured the delay. And then any time a train was between stations, not moving, he captured that as delay. And then he broke it out by location. So now we can see in a very precise way, when we do an intervention on West Portal, we can look the next day and see, did that intervention work? So what we've done is we've captured the overall minutes of delay, whether caused by congestion or caused by an incident. And our goal would be over the next 90-day period to reduce that delay in the peak periods by 10%.